And as promised, we turn our attention to what's happening in Kenya now. Now, the defeated presidential candidate Raila Odinga has rejected the declaration of William Ruto as the winner of last week's election. Odinga was making his first comments on the results, which were announced on Monday.
A day after the declaration of William Ruto as president-elect, his main opponent, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, has come out to express his dissatisfaction.
For avoidance of doubt, I want to repeat that we totally and without reservations reject the presidential results announced yesterday by Mr. Chebukati.
His grounds for rejecting the results include claims that the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Wafula Chebukati, acted unilaterally in declaring Ruto the winner.
What we saw yesterday was a travesty and a blatant disregard of the Constitution and the laws of Kenya by Mr. Chebukati and a minority of IEBC commissioners.
On Monday, Chebukati made the announcement shortly after 4 commissioners of his commission walked out and disowned the results. On Tuesday, the commissioners held a press conference to explain why they had distanced themselves from the final outcome. Deputy President William Ruto on Monday night, however, came to the defense of the commissioners, describing Chebukati and those who stayed behind as heroes.
Every Kenyan, irrespective of what side they support, agree that the conduct of the IEBC in this election was phenomenal. The returning officer for the presidential election is the chairman of the IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, in this case.
Odinga will now be moving to court to seek legal redress, just like he did in 2013 and 2017. In 2017, the Supreme Court overturned President Uhuru Kenyatta's win over what it termed as illegalities and irregularities and ordered a fresh poll, which Odinga boycotted. Ruto, who says he won fair and square, says he's confident of overcoming all the legal hurdles. Odinga and his Azimio la Umoja One coalition now have 7 days within which to file a petition at the Supreme Court. The court will then hear and determine the case within 2 weeks. If it annuls the elections, then the country must return to the ballot within 60 days. Should there be no petition, then Ruto is due to be sworn in on the 30th of August. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
So as you saw there in that package by Sarah Kimani, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has rejected the declaration of William Ruto as the winner of last week's elections. Odinga says that the Commission's chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, acted unilaterally in announcing Ruto as the winner and that the tallying process was marred by illegalities. Now, on Monday, Ruto was declared the winner at the polls, 50.9% against Ruto's 48.85% of the vote. For more now, we're joined by the SABC's international news editor, Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, good morning. And of course, we've had this build-up and, a great job done there by Sarah Kimani and yourself as the team in keeping us up to speed with those developments. But what's your general observation of the Kenyan election and, of course, the outcome to this point?
It depends who you speak to, but generally during campaigning was relatively peaceful, even though here and there were standoffs and also accusations leveled against government that the current sitting president, was using the government resources to support Raila Odinga, because we know that he didn't hide the fact that he wanted Raila Odinga to become the president of Kenya, and therefore there was a fallout with his deputy, William Ruto. And during voting also, it was relatively peaceful, but there was an incident where a returning officer died because there's a belief that he was kidnapped and he was killed. His body was found on Monday. And therefore, it is a mixed bag, but much better when you look at what transpired some years ago, particularly in 2008, where there was violence. And 2017 was much better because at that time, the observer mission from the AU in particular, headed by former South African President Thabo Mbeki, was fully aware of the danger there, and therefore they made a point that when they go there, they go earlier and they stay during counting until announcement of results and post-announcement of results. I remember Mbeki having to fly back to South Africa to deliver OR Tambo lecture and went back to Kenya to ensure that everything goes well. And when there was a rerun again, he was there to ensure that with his team and the other teams from different organizations to ensure that elections were free and fair. And then, but there was a recommendation that the Electoral Commission in that country must tighten its processes of posting results, because they used to take the results to the results center, and then the results was being posted or was being transmitted into a server, and that server caused a lot of controversy, people saying it can be hacked. And this time around, it was a tight process in a sense that the returning officers had to also not only put the results in a portal that was being accessed by any other person. You could do your own tally if you had enough time, because it's bundles and bundles of results. And then they had to go again to the tally center to go and present the document in person with the officials of the Electoral Commission to verify what they transmitted in the portal does it is in sync with what is in the paper where the political parties have signed off. And therefore, there was a bit of a tight process to ensure that there's no discrepancies.
Now, Sophie, as we know, Raila Odinga has threatened legal action, but does he actually have a case?
It will depend on what evidence he has in terms of saying that the numbers are not correct. Because as I pointed out, you have political parties in different voting stations when counting is happening and who are signing off the results with the presiding officer at that particular voting station, and then sent to a regional center where there are also observers from a different political party or party agents. And then you send to the main center. And anybody, even you, Sakina, you can go to that portal now. You can do your own calculations. And therefore, it will depend. Yes, I saw the commissioners, 4 commissioners, majority, saying that they don't support the results. But there are issues around. These are 4 commissioners who were appointed recently by the outgoing president, and we know where he stands. 2, the 4 commissioners, yesterday, for me, what was a bit funny was that they had a media briefing yesterday. And that media briefing was beamed into a venue where Raila was going to have a press conference. And immediately after that Raila had his press conference. When you look at the text or the wording or the statements, there are familiar phrases from what Raila said and what the 4 commissioners are saying. So I think the judges, if this matter is finally before court, because they still have to file in 7 days, we will see what kind of evidence they have, and the judiciary will then have to make a ruling whether they are correct or not. And it's not the first time Raila went to court. 2017, the elections were overturned, there was a rerun, and again Uhuru Kenyatta won, but still he rejected the results. So we don't know. Rejecting the results, it's not the first time, and I think the institutions in Kenya are strong enough to handle this matter.
Sophie, we're out of time, but just very briefly, what does this dispute of the announced results mean for governance in Kenya?
Well, I think because you have a person who was the deputy president, and you still have the president, because Uhuru will leave office only when the president is sworn in. There's still work that's been done, and we had yesterday the secretary of different departments and the spokesperson of government saying people must go back to work. They are preparing for inauguration depending on what's likely to happen in the next 7 days. And Ruto is not familiar with government. And I think yesterday already we are told he met a security cluster. He's continuing trying to ensure that he's motivating people who are still in office, particularly the technocrats, to continue. And fortunately, it looks like this time around Kenyans are going on with their business. I mean, even Kibera, the area where you have a stronghold of Raila Odinga, people were back to work because with the economic climate we have all over the world, in the continent, and Kenya included, no one wants to lose his job. And I think voters have decided. Let's hear what the court is likely to say if they finally go to court. And I think voters this time around have decided we are kings and queens and not the politicians, and will go on with our business after voting.
Thank you so much, Sophie Mokoena, SABC's international news editor there, speaking to us about the latest developments in Kenya.